Hi guys, and welcome to the next video about the Suit of Cups. We're moving on today to the Seven of Cups right here. And this is not one of the more beloved cards in the top deck. And it's another card that is pretty different depending on which deck you're using or which tradition you're using. If you're using the top deck, then it is not a particularly great card. It is a gross card, hence the imagery. If you're using the Rider-Waite style of card, then it's a little bit more benign and is much more dependent on what it's surrounded by, because it can still have sort of the same connotations, which we'll get into, but it can be a little bit more, I want to say, a little more gentle in its interpretation, in that it doesn't necessarily represent such heavy ideas as it can with the Tot, and it can represent more like daydreaming and fantasizing about different possibilities that might not necessarily even be possible to put into manifestation, and getting sort of wrapped up in those ideals and illusions. So either way you look at it, it's a card of non-reality. It isn't a card that has energy that is that works well on the physical plane. Either way you look at it, it's not a great card. And the reason for this mostly is because the card is quite unbalanced. And let's go into our Tot analysis here with the book. I've actually really enjoyed doing this by the book, because I do think it's good to review what he says about each of these cards, and there's a lot of information already in this book. Of course, there are books that I recommend on my site, polyphonictarot.com, that will help give some further background on different cards, but really the best source for this deck, if you really are serious about the Tot, is read this book several times over until it is ingrained in your being. So anywho, this is what he says. This card refers to the seven, Netzach, in the suit of water. Here occurs the invariable weakness arising from the lack of balance, governed by Venus and Scorpio. Her dignity is not good in this sign. Venus is a lot like copper, he says, external splendor and internal corruption. And the water has become poisonous and slimy, making the sea a malarious morass. Venus redoubles the influence of the number 7. So this is the third card in a row with the Suit of Cups, which is really interesting. Three cards in a row that have doubled astrological influences here. With the 5, we had Mars and Gabora. 6, we had the Sun and Tiferet. And here we have Venus and Netzach. And so all three of those cards have really strong planetary energies. The energy of those planets are really strong in each card. Now with the five manages to work because we're not so far down the tree, and because the number 5, having that semi connection to spirit, I think is able to hold on to some of its integrity a little bit more. With the 6, the sun is such a good element. Tiferet is such a great Sephira. We talked about how that's really balanced. With this one, however, Venus and Venus in Scorpio is not a great combination. Venus and Scorpio, as he says, is already not a particularly great combination of elements, but double Venus in Scorpio in a Sephira that is known for being slightly imbalanced is not particularly great. Not a great combination. So we have this real heavy Venus influence in Scorpio, the sign of obsession and sexuality and sort of psychological forms of pleasure. So we have this sort of recipe for disaster here, and recipe for overdoing it. And we go on. The cups are iridescent, carrying out the same idea that it's Venus and Venus. They are arranged as two descending triangles interlaced above the lowest cup, which is much larger than the rest. And so this is really, a trope on the Six of Cups, because the Six of Cups was represented by two triangles as well, but they were represented as masculine and feminine interacting with each other in a way that was very harmonious and beneficial. There was some sort of creative something happening there released by the union of those two energies. Here, we don't have that creative energy at all. We have two descending triangles which represent the feminine, and so this card is incredibly passive, incredibly just stuck, and it isn't producing anything of value. It is strictly pleasure for pleasure's sake. It does not produce anything, it does not elevate anyone's consciousness in any way. It is not holy as the Six of Cups really is. And the cup on the bottom is quite a bit larger than the rest. And I think that this is to represent that, this, as opposed to the six, really is a connection to the baser desires that we have. This is using sexuality strictly for the sake of sex, strictly for the sake of pleasure. It's not using it, again, in a way that's productive. Let's see. So this card, and he agrees, this card is almost the evil and averse image of the six. It is a wholesome reminder of the fatal ease with which a sacrament may be profaned and prostituted. Lose direct touch with Keter, the highest, diverge never so little from the delicate balance of the middle pillar. At once the holiest mysteries of nature become the obscene and shameful secrets of a guilty conscience. That is pretty intense. And so he's absolutely right. The number 7 is the first really bad divergence from the middle pillar. And because it's so imbalanced already, and in a way that is passive and lacking in real creative energy, frankly, it has too much feminine energy, as we would say. It's too passive. And without that sort of masculine energy to bring it more into balance, like with the six, we get overkill. And it becomes really just, as he says, a prostituted version of the Six of Cups. So in divination, when we get this card in a reading, it's not a great card to get in a reading. It means that the person you're reading for either is going overboard with something or is just being too indulgent in some way. And this could really be, excuse me, really could be either, it can be anything from alcoholism to just laziness. It really depends. Again, it depends on what is happening around the card, all about context here. But it represents any abuse of pleasure that is leaving the person stuck in their head. And I think that's kind of where we get the weight image of the guy looking into the clouds, sort of trying to make up his mind as to what he wants to try to make manifest. But the question is, does he ever really manifest anything at all, or does he just hope about it and wish about it and doesn't really actually do anything about it? So either way, you have this strict idea of passivity and not really doing anything. So I hope that explains that, clears that up. And of course, be sure to visit my new website, which is up and running, polyphonictarot.com, links below. You can request a reading. I'm still doing my summer sale. Buy a reading over $20 and get another one half off. You can also follow me on Twitter now, also Pinterest, and also Facebook. So please like, subscribe, comment, etc., and let me know what you think. All right. Thanks, guys. Bye.